I think certainly crises release or reveal the latent capacity. But there's a really interesting question, which is, if that's the case, why don't we look for it anyway? Why don't we look before crisis? Why don't we keep thinking about life as, I would say, entrepreneurs think about life, to say, well, what is here that, is changing? Where is there a capacity for something better?
The main thing about normality is people want to go back to work. They want to be earning. They want to be, seeing their colleagues. Families want to be able to have their normal lives. The problem is that on the economic side, the normal was a very problematic way of growing. I mean, what caused the financial crisis, for example, was not a lack of growth, but the direction of that growth. What is causing the climate crisis is not a lack of growth, but the direction.
If we look upstream at so many of the challenges facing the world, whether it's the climate emergency, environmental breakdown, rising levels of loneliness, inequality, poverty, all those challenges, when you start going upstream and ask what are their root causes, you so often find yourself facing the economic system.
We have a systemic crisis. The first law of ecology, everything is connected to everything else. And we simply can't say there's a climate crisis and there's an inequality crisis, and it is all bound together.
We're going to be spending trillions around the world to rebuild after this. We're going to have to find a way to put our society back to work. And we have long had an urgent need to update and modernize our infrastructure, social and physical. We have every reason, I think, right now to have not just a New Deal, but a Green New Deal that does it in a way that's ecologically responsible and sustainable.
I would dearly, dearly love to think that this crisis will provoke experimentation and openness to new ideas in a way that will enhance our democracy. But there will always be a question in my mind, which was, what on earth made us think that for 70 years we could just leave democracy and let it become as stultified and archaic as in fact it became?
Saving liberal democracy has a few meanings. Do we want to save liberal democracy for the classes and the groups that have benefited from liberal democracy over the past few years? Or do we want to save liberal democracy in the sense that we want it to work for everyone? In that sense, we're not saving it, we're recreating it because it never worked for everyone.
I think the point about democracy, especially deliberative democracy as a system of coming up with a global and just consensus for climate change, is that it's a mechanism that allows us to correct our mistakes.
The idea that our age wanting a statue to be removed or to be contextualized is not us saying that our morals are right. And I've written and thought a lot about what about this age will future generations find outrageous about us. I mean, I read documents by people in the 18th century, and you look at their double think about slavery. Good, decent, Christian, incredibly moral people in lots of ways who are slave traders. I think our age will have the same contradictions. I think our relationship with the natural world, our failure to seize this moment to stop the climate crisis will be condemned by future generations who will live with the consequences and will rage against our refusal to give up on some of the luxuries that we have when the science was telling us that we had to.
I think most people care about the legacies they leave, keeping a part of themselves alive after they've gone. And we've inherited extraordinary legacies from the past, from those who made the great scientific discoveries we still benefit from, who built the cities we still live in, who planted the first seed. But we're also the inheritors of these more negative legacies. We've got bad ancestors as well as good ones. So the real challenge for us is to embrace an intergenerational form of the golden rule. What do we wish we had inherited? And then, therefore, what would we like to pass on to our descendants?
When I talk about a better future of health and social care, the dream is what I and other dreamers want. We all want to live in a place we call home, with people and things we love, in communities where we look out for one another, doing the things that matter to us. That's the social care future we seek.
Let's think about actually the future is something we are all engaged in, we are all involved in, and that we can all influence. So let's start thinking proactively instead of defensively about the future. And let us do that together because it's a better way to think.
If we're going to achieve a new balance, a kind of post-war settlement, a post-COVID settlement, we need to understand who we are and seek more explicitly to build policies and institutions designed to bring out the best in us and to enable us to solve our problems together.
I do think that there's so much to learn around the world of what works, what doesn't, and using this opportunity to really structure and bring back strategy, intention, imagination, but dreaming a better society, but doing it in the now. What better moment? And we can't fail. We have to try.